All right, welcome to the Marriage Boss podcast. And today I'm super excited because I've got a gentleman by the name of Roger Haskett with me. And Roger helps to make organizations, individuals, and events more engaging. In his rich and diverse career as a speaker, actor, MC, writer, director, and entrepreneur, Roger developed a unique formula for not only maximizing audience engagement, but influencing employees, members, participants, and everyone he meets to be more engaged and authentic individuals. Roger is an extremely passionate and positive individual with an infectious personality. I can tell you he does have it. That will captivate and move you. He believes in creating playful energy, the power of storytelling, and getting people actively involved. He consistently delivers entertaining, interactive, and relevant experiences rooted in his background as both an educator and actor. Roger's fast-growing company, Engagement Unlimited, offers fresh new products for meetings and events that weave together entertainment, education, and team building, proving to clients that by maximizing participant engagement, ROI can be drastically improved. Roger holds a BFA in acting and an MA in education, and he's acted in over 150 films, TV shows, and commercials. You might have seen him in shows like X-Files, Supernatural, Stargate, iRobot, or Lovesick, Confessions of a Sex Addict. Roger, welcome to the Marriage Boss podcast.
Thank you, Rick. Awesome. You know, I love ending on my Confessions of a Sex Addict because I feel that if anyone has seen me in anything on TV, it will be that. Because, you know, if you're given a choice, you're sitting at home and going, am I going to watch iRobot or X-Files or what's this, Confessions of a Sex Addict? Maybe I'll watch that.
That's terrific.
But it is, isn't it? But I play, just to let everyone off the hook and to feel a little more ease, I play the psychiatrist who's helping solve sex addiction. So
Makes total sense.
Yes, totally. It makes total sense. So thanks so much, Rick, for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
You're welcome. I'm pumped up to have you. And I'll tell our audience a little bit about how we met. Your brother reached out to me about doing some work together. And then when I saw your videos, I kind of got a sneak peek at some of the things that you are going to be releasing soon. And I was on board immediately. I felt, connected to your message. Your style was super engaging, and I was just so pumped up. And then one thing led to another, and then your brother was kind enough to connect, and your brother's Michael. He was kind enough to connect us and get you on the show with me today. So I'm pumped up. We talked a little bit about, some of the things that you've done in your life to get from A to B to C, and now this this next edition of you, and there's so many big leaps in your life. So tell me, how did this happen, and how does it relate to the new course that's coming out, which we'll talk about in a bit?
Yeah, for sure. So the course that I'm putting together is to help people, help leaders, but really to help people become the biggest, best, most authentic version of themselves they can possibly be while they're even in moments of extreme stress or crisis, where it turns out, a lot of really important things happen in life. And so I put this together because really I make a ton of big leaps. Let me rephrase that. Like, my life, when I look back over it, has been a series of leaps right from when I was a teenager. And the first leap that I had when I was a teenager happened as a result of having to stand up, being chosen as a leader. And I tell this story in my video, so I won't tell it right now because people can get it if they're interested. It's free. But really, I tell this story about how when I was 13, I was chosen to be a leader, and I was totally, thrown. Like, why would I? Like, me? Like, what am I a leader? Like, what? How could I be a leader? And what happened is that I was thrown in a situation where I learned at the end of it how stress could change my character. And it really, really threw me for a loop, like, where I went, what? Like, I'm not the person I thought I was. I thought I was this person who had, who lived by his principles, but it turns out that the moment a little bit of stress comes into my life, my principles just all went away. And so I went on a journey. From that moment, the first big leap was to say, I don't want that to happen anymore. And I need to learn, one, how to be more engaging so that the things that are inside of me, I can talk to people and they'll be interested in what I'm I'm saying. So one of the journeys was how to be more engaging. But the other journey was, and this was the most important journey at the time, which also relates to big leaps, is how to manage my own internal world so that it didn't get in the way of doing things that I desperately needed to do. And I believe big leaps are when the pressure inside us has risen to such a level that we cannot not see the leap ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that either we make that big leap into happier, more meaningful life, like a happier, more meaningful life, or we turn sideways and we let fear make the decision and we don't make the big leap, and thereby making the pressure rise and rise again. So for me, and for the course that I'm offering to people, really it's all about how to become the biggest, best version of yourself, the most authentic version, because to me, that is where real excitement and real change happens. I've been, I was on your site listening to some of the other podcasts, and I hear you talking about fear. Fear is a big issue, and especially for anyone who's dealing with either considering making a big leap, or in the midst of making a big leap, or even in the aftermath of should I have done this? Because it's, leaps are messy, like they're chaotic and messy, at least in my experience. So I put together this course to help people manage those issues inside themselves that stop them from being the biggest, best version of themselves they can be. Because I believe that most of us stop ourselves. And I do a lot of stuff with neuroscience, and neuroscience has this very interesting fact that's coming out. As a matter of fact, this is the most interesting thing about neuroscience right now, I believe. In the last 5 years, we've learned 90% of what we know about the human brain and the way it interacts, like the way we think and the way it affects what we do. We've learned 90% of what we know about the way we think and act in the last 5 years. So everything... isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Like, it's mind-blowing. And all the stuff that we're learning teaches us, shows us how to be the biggest, best version of ourselves. Like, neuroscience is literally going, we now know, like, if you want to walk into a room and be the biggest version of yourself, we know what happens around, what neuroscience will do to support that and to undermine it. Because this is one of the things that I cover in the course. It turns out that when we are in stressful situations, we suffer from something that's called positive amnesia. So what happens when we're under stress, or when we're not getting enough sleep, or because those things are the same often, like our body reacts to not getting enough sleep and to stress the same way. And what happens is that our oxygen and blood flows to the part of the brain that really focuses on negative things. So your body is forcing blood and oxygen to the part of your brain that remembers, that experiences negative.
Wow.
So what will happen is, before you walk into a stressful situation, your natural inclination as a human is to over-remember the negative, because that's where all the blood and oxygen is going, and to literally suffer something called positive amnesia, where the positive things that have happened in your life that relate to the situation you're in, you'll literally not remember. Like, so someone, like a friend might say to you, "Hey, Rick, remember when, you were in the same situation and it ended up being, amazing?" And you, Rick, might, depending on how much stress you're under, you would sort of look at them and go, "What?" Like, what do you, I don't think you're talking to me. Like, you must be referring to something that happened to you, because that didn't happen to me. Because we literally have positive amnesia, because the blood and oxygen gets sucked up by the negative side, and thereby, basically, making your ability to remember positive smaller and smaller, until literally you'll have something that neuroscientists refer to as positive amnesia. And yet it's really easy to fix that. There are really easy strategies to fix that, so that when you're in that situation. So I talk about this to leaders, for example. Like, you're an entrepreneur, let's say you've got a staff, a team, hopefully you have some team. It's really important to have support. So if you have, it's people around you, and the worst thing you ever want to say to those people when they're going into a stressful situation, or for you going in, is, the normal comment of, hey, remember what you did last year? Let's not do that. remember what you did last time? Let's not have that happen again. Because what you're doing is you're just locking in the negative. That over, echo chamber of negative is just getting locked in. And instead, what you want to do as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a parent, you want to, or as a someone who has a significant other, like a husband or wife, you want to instead be the person who brings out the positive. So you want to be the person who goes, hey, I know you're feeling really stressed. I know it's really hard right now inside your brain to remember anything that's positive, but let's remember some of the positive. And neuroscience teaches some very interesting things. You can get the same effect by either remembering something positive that happened in your life, or you can get the same effect in your brain by anticipating something that's positive in your life. Because our brains do not know the difference between reality and what you tell it.
I remember seeing that in your video, and I was blown away by that. So it basically said, you said that we don't have to have that experience yet. We just have to think about it, and we can get. You use the example of vacations.
Totally.
Taking a vacation, and thinking like that you had just gone on the vacation, or you were going on the vacation. Anticipating it.
Yeah, so your brain does not know how to tell the difference between something that's real, like something that happened to you in the past, or something that you're imagining happening in the future. To your brain, those are the same things. Or, I mean, like, let me, back it up. I'm sure there are differences, but in terms of dealing with this issue, they are basically the same thing. Your brain will think, oh, I'm anticipating that vacation. So for parents, this is a really important one for parents, I think, because most parents don't ever go on a real vacation. What they do is they go a place where their responsibilities are a little bit less, but they're still there. So, when I went recently to Mexico for an all-inclusive with my wife and our 3 kids, so I've got a 10-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. In my mind, I was anticipating, sitting by the pool and relaxing and having drinks and reading my book and maybe watching a movie with my wife. And I had all these images in my mind, which I was totally enjoying and filling my life with anticipatory happiness and positivity, which is amazing. So in advance of the vacation, sitting in my office, whenever I needed a boost of energy, a boost of concentration, a boost of positive, I would go for a 3-minute journey to the vacation in my mind. My brain doesn't know the difference about whether it's real or not. So it's just soaking up this anticipatory positive energy as if it's real. But, for parents, what happens is that you actually go on the vacation and it's not like you anticipated. Instead of having drinks and reading books by the pool, instead what you're doing is you're running around going, I hope my 1-year-old doesn't fall in the pool and drown. Oh, wait, I better grab my 4-year-old to make sure he doesn't push my 1-year-old into the pool to drown. And so you're doing, your normal parenting thing. So, one of the things that you can do is just constantly think in your brain that you're planning a vacation next week, and then don't go on that vacation. Instead, just enjoy it and then plan another vacation.
Great idea. Yeah. And I started using that technique since I saw that, and it works. It really does. It makes you feel like you can do anything and you can enjoy anything. Terrific tip. So tell me the importance of relationships and what it means for your marriage to use the neuroscience and these big leaps.
Okay, so to me, this is one of the things, I'm so glad to be talking to you, Rick, because to me, what you're talking about here, the relationship of husbands and wives to their business, and how and relationships and marriage and business have to go together on some level. The fact that you're talking about this to me is amazing, because and I believe this is the wave of the future. This is the wave of the future. This is where we're going. People are not satisfied anymore with going to a job, having that occupy 10 or 12 hours of their day, and then go back home to a crappy relationship because they put all their energy into their job. More and more people are going to stand up and say, I am not down for this. Why do you think that that's a happy life? Because it's not a happy life. So what neuroscience teaches us, and I want to bring it back to husbands and wives and relationships, but let me take sideways to neuroscience. What neuroscience teaches us, and you can read this in The Happiness Advantage. This is an amazing book, the best book I read in the last year. The author, Sean Achor, has a TED Talk that is amazing to listen to, but the book is 20,000 times better than the TED Talk. There's so much more.
And what is the name of it?
is called the happiness advantage.
The happiness
Because
advantage. So we'll
advantage.
put that in the show notes too.
Perfect. And because what he talks about, and the reason he says that it's a happiness advantage, is that he believes that, and neuroscience supports this, that we've been approaching happiness and success totally backwards. Totally backwards. What we've said, and what society conditions us to believe, is that if you go out and go for success, if you try to get success, if you make your life about achieving success, that when you get that success, you will be happy. And the truth is, we know that that's not true. Like, we know that empirically. You can look around, look at all the successful people you know. Some of them are happy, many of them aren't. I just ran into this speaker who lives in outside of Silicon Valley. He said it's the most expensive place in the States, that little community. Houses cost $6 million. And he said, I've never met a more unhappy group of people than the people who live in the most expensive place.
Yep.
Money, success does not buy us happiness, which we know, but we don't know because society conditions us. So instead, what neuroscience is teaching us is that happiness, gratitude, and optimism, right? So happiness, gratitude, and optimism are predictors of success, not its outcome. So if you want success in your life, you don't aim for success. You aim for happiness, you aim for gratitude, and you aim for optimism.
Wow.
Those are the things that you aim for, because out of those three, success will come.
All right, you know what I'm going to ask you?
Yeah.
I want you to repeat that one more time, because that is a landmark moment in this show. So if you want success, aim for, say it one more time for us.
So happiness, gratitude, and optimism are predictors of success, not its outcome. So if you want success in your life, and we're talking real success, the type of success that you talk about, Rick, not just fleeting fake success where I achieve a bonus at work, or, I have a new car. We know scientifically, empirically, those things do not produce real lasting success or happiness. If you want real success, which means, I believe, real relationships, real love, then you need to aim for happiness, optimism, and gratitude.
Nice.
And you really need to aim for them when it's the hardest. So this is what I believe. I believe that when you're down a deep, dark hole, when you're down a deep, dark, stress-ridden hole, and that hole can be divorce, that hole can be a new leap where you're making the leap and you're in the middle of it going, whoa, what am I doing? That hole can be, walking into a networking event where you want magical things to happen, but you feel like the most small, shrunken, most tight, the most un-you version of you. If you want to pull that, success and happiness into your life, when you're in that deep, dark hole, that's when you've got to practice it. You've got to practice things when it's the hardest, so that you can actually have them when it's the easiest. And this is a really hard thing for us as humans to do. We gravitate to easy because it's easy.
We're shooting for it every day.
Yeah, we want easy. And so bringing this back to my big leap, one of my biggest leaps was about 6 years ago. And I really have made a life on big leaps. Like, I've made a life on, I find where my biggest fears are and I run towards them. I find where my biggest discomfort is, and that's a big neon sign saying, Roger, pay attention here. Because the biggest change in anyone's life is when you tackle the biggest fears in your life. So, if you're going to want to create change in your life, and anyone who's listening to this podcast, anyone who I believe is alive, wants change in their life on some level to make something better. So if you want change in your life, and you're going to go through big leaps, you need to learn how to manage like the down energy, the times that I'm really falling in a deep, dark hole. And you do that by practicing the hardest things in those moments. You practice optimism, gratitude, and optimism, gratitude, and happiness. You practice those even when you're not feeling those things. I listened to the speaker who had this really amazing line. He said, whenever anyone asks me anytime, any day, how are you? He says, I learned this from my father. I say, I'm great, no matter what. And if I'm not great, I say, I'm grateful.
Wow.
So when I'm in the dark hole, what my response to life is, I'm grateful.
Wow.
right? And can you imagine, like, you imagine practicing that type of
Boy,
behavior?
that's another
How,
great one.
isn't it? Like, it would
Yeah.
turbocharge your life to be
Yeah.
in that hole going, I'm still grateful. I'm still grateful. Look at all the things that I have. I have gratitude and optimism because, and happiness because while I'm in this hole, I have something that I'm still shooting for. And to relate it back to relationships and marriage and the marriage boss and husbands and wives, this is what I believe. I believe our self-perpetuated issues are the things that get us in the way of stopping us from being the biggest, best, most authentic version of ourselves we can be, which is the place we need to be to make the biggest difference in our life and the biggest difference in this world. And our world needs people to stand up and make big differences. So to me, that never happens unless you also have support. And that means real love. There's a study that I reference in the course. The longest study that we've ever conducted on humans has been this 70-year study where they studied Harvard men. It was back in the start of the 20s, so it was only men. And they studied Harvard men and success. And when they asked the social scientist who was in charge of the 70-year study, what his findings were, he said, strangely, I can sum it up in one word. This is a scientist speaking. And he said the word is love. Love. The people who had success were the people who had strong support networks, strong networks of love.
Boy.
And so, coming back to what you're talking about here, big leaps, creating a family and a marriage and a business that actually matter, that matter, well, it means that you have to have a good relationship.
Wow.
And if you don't have a good relationship, to me, this is where you need to decide where your next big leap is.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have a decent relationship, because no one else is going to be able to make this choice, you have to decide, is my big leap to make my relationship significant again, to make it potent and powerful and real in my life? Or is my big leap to actually find someone else who will do that with me?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you need to get out of relationships to get into the real relationship that you need to be in. And other times you need to fight. You need to fight really hard to get your relationship back working. So to me, all of this stuff rolls in together, because how do you fight for that? How do you fight for your business? How do you fight to matter unless you're also figuring out how to manage your internal demons?
So tell us about this is some great stuff. I mean, this is going to be like one of my favorite episodes. I'm telling you right now. This goes beyond gold nuggets to giant boulders of gold. So thank you. We're talking about golden boulders here. Now, tell us about Roger's rules, because I think that's a big key.
Sure. So you'll see this all in the course. And just to explain the course is a mini course. What we're offering, it's free 3-video mini course where you guys get, we talk about the way you think about stress determines its impact on you. So we talk about how neuroscience is now teaching us about different ways of stress. We talk about body language and how your body language is communicating far more than you think. And until you start thinking about body language, you are never harmonizing your message, which is essential for an entrepreneur. And the third one is, how to get a 10% performance bump, no matter what, by following this very simple and fun strategy that you can do in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, how you can get a 10% bump before you walk into stressful rooms, before you have to, make the next pitch, or before you talk to your significant other about how to make your relationship better. Whatever it is. So that's the course, the free part of the course. And in there, I talk about Roger's rules. And Roger's rules, I always ask my class, my groups, I talk, to, thousands of people at a time and small groups of 30 people. And I always ask them this question. It's always so funny, the consternation I cause. Because I always say to people, why do I call them Roger's rules? And there's this shuffling in the room, and everyone sort of looks sideways like, is this a trick question? Because, the obvious answer is, I'm Roger. Right? I call them Roger's rules because I'm Roger. But the really important thing here is that you're not Roger. Like Rick, you're Rick. Yeah. So Roger's rules are rules that I have found that I have changed my life with, and that I've taught to thousands of people, and they've changed their lives too. However, they're Rogers rules. And the most important thing to recognize is that you need to find your rules. Like everyone needs. So what I hope is at the end of my course, at the end of my talk, at the end of, my class, whatever, that people scratch off my name, lovingly scratch it off, and then they put their name, like Rick's rules at the top. And then they might scratch off one or two of the rules where they go, these don't really relate to me, I don't feel, but these ones really relate. And this one down here, when I hear it, fills me with fear, which means I really need to pay attention to it. But so Rogers, and I also call them Rogers rules because if you say it fast, it sounds like you're saying Roger rules, and that makes me very happy. But Rogers rules are these series of rules that I created, and I created them when I was teaching actors. So this was when I was helping actors. Like I'm an actor, so I was teaching actors, but also teaching myself. When I was helping actors figure out how to walk into rooms where they want to do magnificent things, where they want to act magnificently, and yet they find it really hard to do normal things like breathe, because when you're walking into an audition room, it's really stressful. When you're an entrepreneur and you're walking into your pitch session, or you're walking into the bank meeting, or you're asking for more money, or when you're walking into the room which you're supposed to say, hey, I think that we are going to need to put a little more energy into this, whatever, that sort of stressful room, same idea. I wanted to create rules that helped people become the biggest, best version of themselves, the most authentic version of themselves they can be in those situations. And so it started with actors, but then I started teaching it to people because I was like, this is for people, not just actors. And so for an example, I'll give you an example. Like one of my first rules is get comfortable being uncomfortable. So this is not a new idea. Everyone says things like, get out of your comfort zone, et cetera. But my take on it is a little bit different. My take on it is that, we think of discomfort, all of us, as humans, think of discomfort as a sign, as a big neon sign, a big flashing neon sign, like, 6-foot letters flashing that says, run away. Like, I'm discomforted, I'm feeling uncomfortable. That's a big sign I shouldn't do this. Like, I should just turn and walk away. I believe it's the opposite. I believe that when we feel discomfort about something, it's a big neon sign, and the sign is flashing, pay attention right here. Pay attention right here. Right here is where you, as a human, are going to do your biggest growth. You're going to have your biggest learning, your biggest growth. And you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because learning and change, by definition, have to involve discomfort. They have to. Scientifically, you cannot move from one state or one phase to another state or to another phase without breaking the status quo. And by breaking the status quo, you are automatically creating discomfort. Right? Status quo is, by definition, where you pull the comfort around you and you sort of cushion your life with this sort of world that makes you sort of feel my status quo is good. It's happy. It's, it doesn't need to change. It's all good. So the moment you want to grow, you want to change, or whether or not you want to, whether it's thrown on you or not, you need to manage discomfort. And rather than running away, we need to run towards it. And the way to run towards it is to build up these, like a series of Rogers rules or Rick's rules that will actually give you the internal fortitude to be the biggest, best version of yourself, the most authentic, when you feel the smallest, when you feel the most shrunken, the most unlike yourself. And yet, that's the journey. How to be the most present, the most you, when you feel the least present and the least you.
Well, luckily the area that I speak to, relationships, quite often we're very uncomfortable. So there's a built-in opportunity here for our audience to use your information today, because quite often in our relationships, especially when we talk about money, and kids and work, and health, we can become very uncomfortable. So it's quite possible you might have given us permission today to take all the challenges and negatives that we've perceived in this area and turn them into a positive, because now there are opportunities. We have now given everyone permission to use this discomfort to grow and to learn. And I think that's the best gift that you can give us today. So, thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. And I mean, like to me, like no matter what happens in your business, like you know, I don't know. It doesn't get any more fundamental to me than relationship. Like there's nothing more fundamental to me, and I believe to humans, we're social species, we're herd species. Like relationship is what our species builds everything on. So we get our power, we get our prestige, we get our position from how we fit into the herd. And that means relate or how we stand away from the herd,
Yeah,
depending.
yeah.
But that means relationship. And so building a business that matters, that doesn't have a relationship component in it, to me, like, I would be saying, what, why, where's the, like, are you building, there, I mean, like I want to be careful about that in a way because I don't want to imply that if you don't have a relationship, your life is lacking. I went through a big chunk of my life without a relationship while I was waiting to find the woman of my dreams, and I was really happy. I mean, unhappy at sometimes and happy at other times. Like you can do things without a relationship, but we're humans.
Well, I
Like,
think I think it's safe to add to that. If you have a relationship and it's not good,
yeah,
this is some good information. If you don't have one and you're fine with that, then maybe it's a relationship at work, maybe it's a
right,
coworker or your manager or
yeah,
someone who works for you or a client or a vendor or the
mm-hmm.
next person you're going to meet tomorrow. So I totally take it as when you say relationships, it could be a romantic relationship
Right,
or it could just be a friend, it could be a parent, it could be your child. It's just
totally.
basically this information. The reason I wanted to have you on is because I think that the tools that you're giving us can be used with anybody and in any relationship. A lot of what you said today. I mean, like I said, this is definitely an episode filled with gold because it serves us on every level of our life, and I so appreciate that. Let's make sure we share a web address and a
Oh
link
yeah,
with our audience. So it's www.durangocourses.com/ref/6, and we'll put that in the show notes.
perfect.
And so tell us now, when is this course coming out?
Sure. So the 3 videos are being released in the middle of September. So coming up soon. I think it's the middle end of September, and it's open for a while. That this off, the offer will be open for a while, and it's open obviously to anyone from the marriage boss. But what we're really hoping is that people will. Choose to look at the videos, the sort of the mini course, and go, is this valuable for me? I mean, Rick, the reason I do this stuff, I've gone like, and I feel the same thing that must be true for you as well. I went from a life where early on in my 20s, I said, I want ease. I'm an artist, I'm an actor, I want ease. I bought a bunch of real estate. I had, I come from, no money. And I figured, I talked my mom into mortgaging her house and giving me a little bit of capital, which I used to buy my first house, and I used that capital to buy other houses, and I built up a little mini empire of real estate, which with passive income, I think I was at the 8 to 9 thousand a month range, where like I had by the time I was in my early 40s, I had clearly sort of done what I was hoping to do in my 20s, and I sort of looked around and I went, what have I done? Like I chose a life. I ended up choosing a life that was all about ease, like about making things easier.
Mm-hmm.
And what I didn't do was make a life that was full of meaning.
Yeah.
Now, I believe in meetings. So all the way through the things that I did, like I co-wrote a musical that's has meaning all the way through it. Like in the midst of that, like I do things
Yeah.
that have meaning because that's in me. But I had realized that the structure of my life wasn't supporting that, and so 6 years ago, I sold everything over the course of a very short period of time. I sold everything and instead put my money into building up my company, which is all about helping people. And this course is really my first real foray into helping individuals, because normally I work with businesses or I work with teams. But this is where I actually am hoping to affect people, like people who will change transform parts of their life that they really have been working on for years and seeing not a lot of success in their change. But instead now we'll actually have lots of change, because my goal is to help people make their difference. And this is, I believe, what your goal is too.
Yeah.
Like, your goal is to help people make their difference, to help them create their life that's full of meaning and that matters, right? So to me, this course is a way of doing that. So I really hope, I hope that people take the chance of clicking on the videos, get the 3 free videos, and see, will it make a difference in their life? Because,
well, you know what? We're going to tell them to do it right now. We're going to tell them, you're listening to Roger, and now you're listening to Rick. Roger has his rules. I have one rule. Your one rule from this show is go to the show notes, click on the link, get your 3 free videos, get impacted, get engaged. I know that when they see you in these videos, they're going to also enjoy, fall in love with, be attracted to. It was hypnotic and magnetic and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
I am basically giving the Marriage Boss recommendation right now to at least click on that link and get the videos, and then see, again, like you said, who it's good for. But I was so excited, to first meet Michael and then see the information, then connect with you now, have you on the show. So this goes a little bit above and beyond what we normally would do when we talk about, when we have a show like this, where we're really giving out information more. We're really giving a directive to get more of this information, because it's totally in line with my brand and what I'm trying to promote, which is for people to connect more so they can have the kind of love and the kind of business that they want. And I think what you're teaching, your message and what you're teaching just kind of fits in line and lifts that right up and supports what I'm doing 100%. So it was great to have you today. And, I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next. I'm going to be promoting the course. So, we'll see what happens. So, Roger,
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing today. It was, like I said, took golden nuggets and made it into golden boulders.
I'm going to totally use that, Rick. I'm totally using
Permission
that.
to use it. Yep.
Buddy, thank you so much for putting me, letting me on, and please invite me back. I'd love to be back. There's lots of other stuff to talk about that we can that value for your listeners, that can help them make their lives, better, more significant, and happier, more playful. Those are things that I really believe in. So please invite me back sometime.
We will do it again.
Good.
Okay, buddy. Thanks. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.